like to call upon Carrie's higher self, please.
This is them.
Hi, thank you for returning. I was just complaining to to you about someone saying that self love is toxic and that we should rely on Jesus to love us and that we shouldn't be focusing on self. Um, I was just ranting and raving actually about it, and I just don't. I know that's not what Jesus would like for us to do. I know that He wants us to empower ourselves and love all. Um, I am curious. Who started the movement about saying self love was toxic?
Well, that movement comes from a lower density vibration. Like that is one to keep people disempowered. And how can you be sovereign yet rely on a outside source? So it's to create also like the cycles and the loops of people feeling like they can't fix themselves, they can't heal themselves, they can't love others, they can't love themselves. When you do this, it just creates people for not like to stay in those cycles and those loops. And it's very oppressive. And it was not anything of the Christ consciousness, Christ consciousness, or of the unity source light. It's not of that vibration.
Yeah, because it's sort of saying that running inwards to find answers instead of running to Jesus will leave you empty every time. So, it is disappointing that there are some very intelligent spiritual people still wanting to make us feel that trying to go inward to find the information to connect to our higher selves is being toxic is somewhat interesting. It feels like the war now, the spiritual war that we're having on this planet, is not with the dark agenda at all. It is with the light workers who are still trying to disempower people, which is a bit frustrating.
Well, I mean, it goes back to money and ego and them needing them to rely on them for the information. So if you empower everyone, and your like source of income is to create a new age spirituality, and to keep everyone informed. Now, if you tap into Christ consciousness, which is unity, which is we are all one, operating off of the same frequency, then they no longer need to give you money. They no longer need to come to you for information. And so, because everybody has access to that information. So it is like the medical field. If you have healed patients, you no longer make money. And so the new age movement, what you're seeing, that division, like what was between the 3D and the 5D, there is a new age versus spirituality gap in that as well. And the new age movement is based around a monetary or ego based fan base. And spirituality is based upon none of those materialistic or egotistic like behaviors.
So the ego is a definition of someone's personality. So if you are ego based, it means, I mean, everyone's got an ego, but if you're materialistic, then your ego will be more focused on materialism and that being a reward system.
Yeah, so it's tuned into the frequency of money and those denser objects. And so if you're tuned to the frequency of like unity source, of God source, of that information, your ego is now attuned to that. You're tuning to that frequency, like that channel on the radio. And so it just depends on what like is driving the momentum. When you naturally be on enlightenment, you naturally don't care about money. You naturally just like that stuff means nothing. And so if you're still tuned into money and needing the power, the fame, or just feeling special, and you're not getting that feeling of being special from like God's source, then that's where the divide is in the spiritual world.
Yeah. it does seem like it's quite oil and water.
Yes, and you are seeing a lot of reactions from people even hearing this information because they feel it's ego or fear based, and it is not. It is, if you really sit down and think about it, it's not.
A lot of people have problems with these quantum sessions because they are in fear that this could be, you know, the dark side tapping in and mind controlling us or doing something.
Well, then they need to work on their fear. Because once you have done your inner work, you start to have a knowing and an intuition of like what resonates with you and what, when you ask those questions, can you look at it objectively?
But there's, you know, that's kind of the cycle that people get stuck in because they listen to people who are focused on money to give them service of spirituality, which just empowers them to not be able to connect into themselves. So when can we start seeing these cycles breaking, when these intelligent people who want to be helpful and want to be spiritual but are still being influenced by materialistic gurus?
I would suggest to then, if they are confused of the information, then to turn off the information and to talk, like to see if they can get that information from their own teams. Because then they would empower themselves and then they wouldn't even, the information would just be a curiosity or just like a little bump up, but it wouldn't be, they're relying on that information too much. Like it's like they are just waiting for the next, in the next session or the next video to come out, because the information, they're like needing it as a lifeline instead of using it as a tool for perspective and education. Like really look at that. Like if you're needing it like that, then you're not tapping into your team, because they would have filled that bucket and then it would just be like a nice enlightened perspective, and being able to look at it and not have it be what's filling your bucket.
Yes, thank you. I do understand. There does seem to be many people that need to feel like they must listen to all what everyone is saying in the awakened community to be able to hear. And I think being able to hear what everyone's saying is really important and healthy in some regards, because you want to be able to hear what's going on in the conscious conversations about spirituality or what is happening on this planet. But it gets to be that point of saturation where it's the same information, it's just distracting people from doing their own inner work.
Yes. Are you using it as a lifeline, keeping you alive? Or are you using it as a scientist and gaining data, information, and objective perspective? Because there is a difference.
I see people listening to sessions and not applying the information. And so therefore it's almost like entertainment versus actually a tool to be able to empower themselves.
They think by osmosis and just listening to it, it's going to create enlightenment. And how many times has it been said, do the work? It takes work. Work is a movement. Work is a application. It is science. If you think of it, when you create a science project, you take that information, you take that data, and you apply it to see what results you get. Now, if you're just going to take the data and do nothing with it, how do you look and test it against the hypothesis to see if the experiment is successful or not?
Yes, it's like the fact that I have running shoes and gym clothes and want a body that looks like I run and go to the gym, but yet I don't actually use them.
Yeah, it's like yoga pants. How many people do yoga in them?
Yeah, one day.
Carrie says
One day.
Carrie says her yoga pants are TV watching pants.
Most comfortable binge watching pants that there are. Yes. Okay. Well, we get that. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that information. We were curious about the karma and the cycles and the the reincarnation track that some people think is still there. And yeah, there's a whole lot of questions we're curious about. So, can we talk to the beings or the system organizers for whoever is in charge of dealing with the false light?
The false light.
Yes, we were told that when people die, they will see a false light. Or some people, when some people die, they will see a false light.
Um, there, we're not showing Carrie a false light. What we're showing her is light penetrates darkness. So if there is a false light, it would be darkness. It wouldn't be light. Light is of source. Light penetrates darkness. So therefore there is no false light.
So we were told that we need to ask a light that we see when we die if it is true source.
We're showing Carrie that's on a past timeline that we just shifted from, where the 3D and the denseness was manipulating energy and information, that could, in a way, but it's very unclear to Carrie. Like, it's still darkness, is what we're showing it to her. It's just like a little bit of illumination on the darkness, but there's still darkness there. However, the timeline that we're on now has no false light agenda. It is pure source light.
I see. And so when people shift, they're not really dying. So will people see that light?
It could be represented as a light when they shift. It could be just that is the energy moving so fast and the portal opening that it just would represent, to them, a light. However, it could just be a lifting as well. Um, but like, we do show Carrie like yeah, there could be light, but it would be like you could see it, but it would be like a feeling around your body, like you're going to feel the light more than anything.
For those people that believe in Jesus and feel that Jesus is coming back, would they potentially have a life contract experience that when they shift, they see Jesus?
Yes, they could tap into the energy of Jesus, to help them shift and feel more comfortable.
Is he going to be busy during the shift?
It's like a hologram effect. You can send. I think you guys talked about this before, about with the angels, and they said they don't really manifest in matter. They can just imprint within the mind's eye as to their presence, and so they can. It would be just like everyone turned on that hologram in their mind's eye, and that's what they would experience. So it's not like a physical aspect of him would be. Uh, it's like a transmission of his the image of him, because not everyone views Jesus as the same. I mean, um even pictures of him, they look different, right? So whatever that is can be like a hologram effect within the mind's eye to help create a comfort.
Has that already been prearranged when people before people came to this lifetime? Because I'm wondering if people who know this information now, could they start focusing and manifesting the belief and the experience that, say, when the shift happens, they want to be guided by, I don't know, Elvis or someone that they really love and respect and would feel really greatly comforted by? Could they change their life contract to have that experience with the king?
They could attempt to, but without inner work, it's harder to manifest those things. So when you're like higher frequency, you can manifest those experiences more. But when you are still have a lot of inner work to do, you're almost like the like it becomes where it's not truly what you want. It's just kind of what your outer self is requesting, because it's not in sync uh with um with their teams. So once you become like you become integrated in whole, like you can manifest those things more easily. But when you are still operating from a denser level and not connected with your team, and you truly don't know what you want because you're kind of confused.
Mm, okay. Okay, cool. That's really interesting. But I fully understand from sessions that everyone's going to experience shifting sort of somewhat differently from each other as they need to experience it to be the most comfortable and the most non-stressful experience as they are integrating into the fifth dimension.
Correct. Yes.
Fun. Okay, cool. And so Carrie's going to be of service while she is helping others also be acclimatized to the fifth dimension. And then, in terms of her experience on the new earth, is there something you can tell her that is new today about her experience on the new earth?
Yes, we can kind of just getting Carrie acclimated to it. We're going to show it to her in her mind's eye. Um, she is going to be helping like the transition in on New Earth. We're showing her that she's going to kind of like settle down in a little like homestead, and like she is going to be like a liaison between the creatures of the new earth and the new humanity of new earth. So she is going to help with those relationships and how to work together in symbiosis.
Would it be initially a struggle for us to all work together and live together in this new environment?
Yes, because they're coming from different lessons, coming from different experiences. And so, and because the not many on old Earth have had a symbiotic relationship with all beings. Yes, you have pets, household pets that people, learn how to live with, and but it's more than that. It's about what has gone so astray on Earth as far as the respect to the relationship to the animal kingdom. That she will be helped with that, working together.
Fantastic.
Carrie sets a lot of her animals free here on Earth because she believes that they should be working together on a free plane instead of in cages, and so she's so it's more of that, like the just working together, how we can support them, how they can support us, and we can work towards a common goal.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Fascinating. Thank you so much. Um, I was curious that we heard recently in a session that someone could, if they chose, for example, could manifest a crocodile on the new earth. Are we able to manifest and create new life um, on the new earth, such as if we did choose to create a crocodile?
Only if it fell within the laws of the new Earth. It could not be manifested anything from a less dense uh, reality. And so it could, and there would still be laws into um, how high of a frequency that they could. So there'd be like a realm of like a scale of things you could access within that dimension.
I see. And so, how would the say if Carrie wanted to create and manifest a butterfly, how would the consciousness of that butterfly, um, how would she mm, be able to create that physically and have it connected consciously?
So physically, there would be a need for a consciousness, or a request for a consciousness to enter that realm in order to create that life. Now, you could create a holographic or a effect without a conscious connection, and that will be very, very easy. So if I want to create an imagery or like have a butterfly imagery like float in front of, in front, that could be easily done. However, if it needed to be connected with a consciousness, then there would have to be a soul contract that that consciousness was requesting to have that experience. And so it would be tapping into that to see if there were any, like if there's a waiting list of consciousnesses wanting to experience. And so then you'd kind of go to that waiting list and say, okay, I'm going to take this one. And then, if it cross checks with what their desires, like they're like, I want to be a butterfly. I want to, be there for X amount of time. Then if all those things cross reference, then you create it.
And would everyone have this capability and capacity
And
to be able to create what is needed and necessary for the new earth?
with time, well, we laugh at time because, yeah. But with work on that is some of the stuff that, you're going into a new world of understanding this. And so with time of the actual work put forth, we'll say, not time, but the work put forth of mastering those lessons is what will create. So if you don't want to ever do that, you want to just sit there and enjoy it, then you're not going to master the lessons to get to that place. And so it just will be about the movement of the lessons in order to get there.
Mm. And would the lessons of being able to manifest life and create life, would that then be, if someone did have that as an interest, would they then be able to go on to other planets and then create more? I guess that would only be dependent on the type of planet they try to do that on. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it'd be depending on what type of what type, when planets are created, they have contracts. Do you have an agreement to, if you want to enter that contract and become the soul essence of that planet? And so it would depend on what that contract of that planet would be and what the need to fulfill the whole overall picture would be.
Fascinating. And would that be the same also as plants and trees and things like that that you could create on the new earth?
Yes.
Extraordinary. And yeah, that's so great. Thank you very much. Okay. We also have another question about the 3D, and how are memories, where do we access memories? How can we recall things? Can you, I know Scarlett and Carrie was speaking earlier about this. What can you tell us to make our monkey minds understand this?
Yes. So they are imprints and frequency within your cells are memories. And when you are accessing personal memories, those are the imprints and frequencies within your cells of your soul spark. And when you are accessing like the Akashic record memories, you are tapping in then to a higher level kind of like database of information that you normally don't carry with you. And so it's like almost like a internal hard drive versus external hard drive. is what we're showing, or like Wi-Fi versus hardwired internet. Kind of like, no, that's not a good example. But yeah, the internal versus external hard drive. So your internal hard drive has all of your personal, imprinted memories, and your external is reaching out to the Akashic records. And it's just accessing that information and creating the circuitry between your cells to gain that information.
Oh, right. So it's not because I think some people assume that we keep all our memories in our brains, but it's actually within our cells.
Yes, your cells conduct all that information. It's almost like they just light up. And they do send it as like the brain is what now takes that information, cycles it, interprets it, and explains it.
So could you say that the brain is a translator of cell information?
Yes.
Is it certain cells or is it in general cells?
No, all your cells.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, thank you so much. Really intriguing. And so, um, to feed our cells and to help our bodies as much as possible, is this the reason why we need more water to be able to have conduction in each cell to be able to help with that?
Yes. So without, like, if you think of it like kind of shrunk cells, and that how you can't separate one drop of water from a glass of water. So when you create that hydration and that energy of the water in your body, it unifies all it. So it actually is more like the information is just, it flows like more fluid in a play on words. But if you are like, the cells are kind of shrunk and there's not that conduction there, then that wave form of energy and the information has a hard time conducting. It's almost like now you've got a smaller bowl and you have to wait for like if you have like a, like we're showing that cup of water in Jurassic Park to carry, like when the like it tips side to side, or it has to have like a thump to now like move the water to wave to the side to connect with those other cells. The more water you have, you don't need that thump to create the seamless information transmission.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So intriguing. So intriguing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And in terms of nourishment of our bodies on the new earth, what would you like us to be mindful of?
It'll just be different. You're going to have to just get used to not chewing. It's just a chewing is a cycle or a habit, and you'll have to understand that like you will be gaining your energy and filling those cells with different sources that don't involve chewing. And it's just going to be another lesson of just old patterns of comfortability. But once you realize that you don't have to chew to obtain the nourishment or the energy transfer to your cells, then you'll be able to, it'll get quite comfortable to operate in that manner.
Fascinating. I love that. Thank you very much. Also, last session that we had with Carrie, you showed her that there was a job for one person, it's regarding, my question is about the people that organize the backdrop people. It was said that there was like a one being or one job for organizing the backdrop people. Is that one job for all of humanity experiencing the backdrop people, or is it uh, each of us have one person? Can you explain a little bit more about that role of organizing the backdrop people?
Yes, and I don't believe that was Carrie's session, but we already gave her the answer before you even asked it, and that was, it's on your team. One person on your team. So they would kind of like organize the backdrop person for your need when you become within that like energy field of where they're existing on the planet, or like on the phone or whatever. And so it'd be like your team would send what that experience that you wanted to experience, or they're guiding the backdrop people to get you back on track to honor your life contract. Or it's another tool that they use up in the like command center of being able to hold you accountable to your life contract.
Oh, I see. Oh, that is fascinating. So I possibly couldn't ask them, my team who was organizing the backdrop people, to just dismiss them. I'm done with the backdrop people.
You could ask them to, but they would then have to get you to honor whatever you want to honor now in a different way. And so it would just be recreating. You're still going to have to learn the lesson. So, I mean, let them have these tools. They've been working so hard to keep you guys in check and keep you here on path that, like, why would you take a tool away from them?
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Give them
fascinating.
a break, Carrie says.
Right. Okay. Well, that's all fine. And so then, and now I'm curious, like, what lessons do I need to learn from some of the backdrop people that I still have to overcome and master?
You've already been experienced it even today. You've experienced there are still really good people in this world.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that is important to be exposed to the good people in the world.
Right. And you had to have a common bond, which was a being that was agitating you, and it agitated the other person. And that became in some way a common bond, but it wasn't in a bad way. It was that, like, you just realized, like, there are still really good people that really want the best for this world. And it was just really reassuring. And so it's a good lesson. Like, not all lessons have to be feeling like they're, um, you know, bad. It just it gave you that reassurance that when you do connect to the lower density things and go and live your life, and there's still really good people in this world.
Yes, when we have to reconnect with the 3D, the density, the lower density, it does. I totally missed that was the lesson there. I felt so invigorated and so positive, but I missed the actual point of what you just said, which was um, seeing that there are still really good people. I mean, I did think that was a great experience, but I wasn't able to articulate my experience and the feelings that I had from that conversation. So I will now realize that I must look at things, even just simple conversations, and really question what was that experience for, more than I have normally. Usually, I think it's struggles or it's challenges that make me stop and go, okay, what am I supposed to learn here? But just even having a simple conversation has now made me realize that every experience has, um, every situation is an experience of importance and significance.
Yes, and there's been such a separation put on all of humanity that there has been a lot of room for assumption based on past experiences, or just based on, like, small bits of the reality that people put out there. When before you were connected, you saw people, you were connected, you could see it, you could really feel it on a physical level, but it's been such a separation and a lot of, like, negative narratives out there that kind of can create that assumption that we're, like, humanity's kind of screwed in a way. But then when you realize, like, no, like, that you have that physical connection again, you realize, no, like, that distance isn't, like, that narrative is not going to be what wins. I'm going to let people prove to me every time when I have an interaction with them who they are and where are at in their journey. And today you got to experience someone who is really lovely and personable, and still was wanting good for the world, and you were able to allow them to be who they were at that exact moment, and not just write off that all humanity's messed up.
Yes, there's, wow, I would hate to think that, well, I wouldn't like to think that I have the opinion that humanity overall is messed up. But now I'm realizing that the next experience I had was at the shop, and the efficiency of my checkout woman was incredible. I was so impressed with her diligence and her passion and her fast service. It was so profound. I said to her as such, because I really noticed that she took pride, dignity with her job, and was so fantastic. And I really now realize that, again, people can do their jobs to the best of their ability with great attitude. So now I'm just going to reflect so much more on these, what seemingly are boring, normal interactions and situations, and really see it for the bigger messages that they're trying to show me.
Yes, and you're attuning to the higher frequency of seeing that in people. So now you won't be presented with as many opportunities, or tuning into the it's like a lot of people experience when the spiritual awakening, when their like friend base falls off and people who they used to love just no longer resonate with them, because you're tuning to a higher frequency. And so now you're like, when the divide is not so much between 3D and 5D, but 4D and 5D, you're able to see how much inner work like humanity has done and how much the healings have done. And now you're attuning to that, and now you're manifesting more and more of those lovely experiences, because that's what now you're tuned into.
Fascinating. I am so pleased for all. I'm quite enjoying this new timeline.
Yeah, and that's the shift you guys will start to see. You will really, if you choose to attune to it. Now, if you want to tune to the lower density stuff, you can, that other stuff can still exist and is still on this realm. But what you're going to see is that now you can like really tune into what you are wanting to experience, and it's a lot more accessible, and that is where practicing for manifestation. So when you get to New Earth, you're already having a little playtime with this.
Oh, well, I do enjoy some playtime. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad that I was trying to be cheeky and ask for no more backdrop people, because I kind of was thinking maybe I could just have the robes to myself, and I was sort of thinking selfishly. But now I'm appreciating the backdrop people experiences and lessons. So I honor and grow from all. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Carrie was very curious more about Antarctica. What can you tell us?
Yes, we are. Carrie's having a really bad head pressure on her top of her head that's just like wrapping around her skull right now. And
What's
it's kind of numbing her face a little. Um,
why is that necessary, and why is she experiencing that now?
it's like a barometer change, like for showing, like it's a pressure change in the environment. Um,
Is that because you're energetically
she's
tapping in with Antarctica now?
It started to happen in the conversation that you guys were just having. However, now it's like wrapping around her head. It's like this pressure that's there, like it's like a pressure. Is it to do with Antarctica? She says, like, it's like like something's going to happen, and she doesn't know if it's going to happen in Antarctica or with her. Like she's feeling the pressure of something about to release, and it really, really is uncomfortable. But she doesn't know the location of if it's going to be there or here in California. It hurts.
Okay, so can we remove the conscious experience of the hurting, please? We don't want her to have the physical discomfort.
Yes, and we're showing her it's Antarctica. There's going to be like an earthquake or an opening up in Antarctica that's going to happen soon. Like all the ice is cracking.
I see. And is that due to the shift, or is that something else?
It's due to the shift, but we're also like showing carry explosives. Like it's not like it's like a man-made explosive.
So, what are they exploding?
Like caverns, they're exploding caverns or bases. Like
Why is it
they're
necessary for them to do that?
the dark forces are there. The ones with the darker agendas use that as a like home base. They're because they can be free kind of in their skin there, and they don't have to like shapeshift or holograph to look like, because there's nothing there, but they like to be there, and they're like there's a lot in the tunnels, and like it's like they're going to destroy those bases.
Who is going to destroy those bases?
Like we're it's a collaboration of militaries. It's not just United States. It's like a collaboration of military forces are going to go there and destroy bases.
Is
Like
this
a submarine, submarines are going there.
okay? Is this going to be publicly known?
Yes.
And what is going to be the results of these explosions? And
The like technology they use for mind control, and the technology they use like they connect it with the moon. Like we're showing like there's a little satellite on the moon. Like they have different technologies that they have there that they need to be destroyed.
and in terms of people being affected by mind control, what will they notice after that has been destroyed?
Like they've been lifted out of a fog.
Oh, nice.
It'll help them to, like, that's still keeping them in the lower density. It'll help them to be released from that lower density so they can then like tap into the higher densities. I mean, the higher frequencies.
How have they come about to be mind controlled?
That's, oh, and the like I'm feeling it again, like in the back of my head. It hurts. They're sending it through your, they're sending it through food. They're sending it like this stuff gets embedded in your brain, like in your head, in your like all over, like it hurts. Like they can cause pain and suffering by using this information and this mind control. Um, it's through water, it's through air, it's through everything. It's through like everything we do. And it taps this stuff, controls that, and it like manipulates you so you don't like that like free feeling Carrie's been feeling for a while now. She didn't realize what she used to feel and how they used to control her. Like it really, they can do so much harm through these tools.
And so, when they're using these tools, isn't it taking away people's free will?
Yes, because as much as you want to even accomplish what you want to accomplish, you don't have the energy or the like clarity, or even like your physical body can't even move to even accomplish these things.
So, the connection with the moon, can't we just use our free will to ask some collectives to be able to take the stuff offline, or whatever means to break it and to help people be liberated from this mind control?
You can, but unless you do your inner work and release that denseness, you would have to do it over and over and over. because their transmission would be like, they would still be able to transmit the information. Now, it may take a couple times because you're like having a good day, feeling really good. But then the next morning, have you ever felt like that's what depression is? Like the next morning when you feel like, oh, just don't want to move, it's because then they got their transmission through.
So what can we do today using all the collectives that are of service to us in these sessions? What can we do to be able to help assist those who need this liberation?
We can ask, sorry, that like they were just showing me how you can just get so disconnected. Like they really disconnected me from your words for a second, like how powerful their tools were. This will be destroyed soon, but what we can do within the collectives is ask for a like a cloaking or an armory around Earth, so that that transmission will like it's almost like a mirror, like the transmission, like if you had a laser, would just like bounce off of it, that cloaking around an armory around the earth, so we can ask them to help protect it and then fill it with that earth frequency, that loving light frequency.
How come this hasn't been happening before and people being cloaked from this this hideousness, let's just call it that?
Because they don't use their free will to know it, like to ask for it, and this information hasn't, in most things hasn't been brought to the forefront. So if you don't know it's happening and you think it's just you, how could you ask and use your free will to have it removed?
Hmm. And I guess the people that are talking about the mind control, they're just letting people know about the mind control. There's never seems to be any solutions of how we overcome it. It always just seems like humanity, you're just disempowered because there is this dark agenda that's winning, and there's mind control, and there's this, and there's that, and there's all this other nonsense. So, okay, well, let's focus on this then. Yeah, we would really appreciate cloaking for that. And we want all the collectives to take responsibility for helping all of the people who have been disconnected, who have been pressurized and manipulated with this mind control. This must stop. There is no time delay for our perspective, and I'm counting time. We need this to happen sooner rather than later.
Yes, and that was with the timeline shift. What was those transmissions also, that was helping that fall off, that frequency, that lower frequency of the information. They can still transmit information, but it's not as dense and doesn't have as much power. But it, like, if you're not connected to your higher self and your team and source, and it makes it easier then to be a receiver of this information instead of being uplined and down, like uploaded and downloaded with source energy. You're still a like open receiver, and so that makes you more susceptible to this information, like this control.
Is there people still on this planet that are not connected to their higher selves?
They are, but it's about like manifestation is about belief, and so it's the ones not trusting.
No, trust is a big one. Okay, what can we do to send people profound trust of self?
You can send love and healing to that. However, that is the empowerment that people need to take ownership of.
Mm.
That's the free will. They have to freely want to trust.
Mm. It does feel like many people have to trust themselves to be able to start wanting to empower themselves, to start wanting to love themselves, to start wanting to be of service. Is that correct?
Yes. because you can have, a heart and a desire to want to be of service, and that is like a directing, like a that's your mission, right? But you have to have a gap analysis of where you're at, as your starting point, like where you truly are, and then you're looking at the gap between where you are between the mission you want to achieve, and you've got to then do the work between that in that gap to get there, so that it's not taking from you in order to create that successful mission. When you start filling in what you need to accomplish within that gap, then once you're like right there next to your, like you've fulfilled those, then when you do your mission, it is actually, the mission is like feeding you instead of it depleting you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want us to know about Antarctica?
No, not at this time.
So, what you're really saying to me is yes, but it's not appropriate right now.
Yes.
Hmm. Love the work. Okay, thank you so much. We'll be patient because we mastered that ages ago. Probably left that behind in the last shift of timelines.
Yes, yes. Anything you don't want to see exist here is just try to manifest it being left in the old timeline.
Released. Yeah,
Yep.
totally released. We've released everything that no longer serves us.
Yes. And Carrie's asking for a little bit more release with this pain that she's feeling.
Wow, so she's still experiencing that. Okay, well, we've learned that experience and we've learned that lesson and we've sent love and healing, and she's now released from it. Is there anything else we can do for her?
No, we're ringing her ears now to let her know it's part of an upgrade too. So she just needs to let it tomorrow she's gonna wake up and it'll be gone.
Oh, okay, good. Well, thank you for that. That is helpful to help her with that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, well, I kind of feel like we have got so much information. I don't know if I want to keep pushing her little body. So I want to be respectful to the physical. Is there a final message that you would like us to know?
And the final message we want to let you know, and it always is told you, is that we really do love you guys and respect that the job that you're doing, and to look at every lesson, not as a from less fear based, but more like excitement because you're learning that lesson and it's moving you to that next place, instead of like taking it and being uncomfortable in the feeling of the fear of maybe this lesson is going to, create an incident that happened in my past that now it's triggering me to think about, and maybe that past is it's going to repeat itself, and that just really is keeps you in that cycle instead of looking at a lesson and going like, woohoo, like I want to learn this one because pretty soon I want to manifest a crocodile, instead of like embrace it with enthusiasm and love, instead of like predicting your past events repeating themselves. And that's what creates the fear of embracing that lesson. So just want to give you some insight of tools to help you all navigate more smoothly through these lessons if you so choose.
Nice. And a really positive, good attitude always is a win. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. You got to fake it till you make it. So if you want to embrace it with a good attitude, you're going to manifest good things, right? Like it's just what we explained about when you attune yourself to that, then those abundant, high energy frequency like experiences happen. So how you meet it will register how it is going to be like bounce back to you.
Nice. Jazz hands into 5D all the way.
Gotta love those good jazz hands. Those are always fun. You gotta, Carrie says you gotta like raise your eyebrows and do really expressive, happy faces too.
Doing that now. Awesome. Thank you so much.